our YouTube page. Hi everyone, my name is Shantanu.
I'm Nandini.
Welcome to the first ever episode of APM Weekly. Gonna do a sound check.
Yeah.
Gonna do a
Can you
sound
all
check.
hear us?
Can you hear us? We're gonna head over to the page.
Yeah.
Yeah, we sound
Yeah.
okay. Awesome. Okay. If you are watching on Instagram,
Yeah. If you're watching on Instagram, hi guys, but also join us
go
on
to
YouTube,
YouTube.
okay?
If you're on Instagram, go to YouTube. The page is APM Nation.
Right.
Awesome. So, for you guys who are watching this later, go here, guys. Okay, that's terrible handwriting. Go here. Head over to YouTube. Be a part of this. And YouTube, I now say hi to you. Hi, YouTube.
Hi guys. Right. So welcome to our first episode of APM Weekly. Hello APM Nation. Thank you for sticking with us for 8 months now, right?
8 months.
8 months. Yeah, we've been reading your poems for the last 7 months, 8 months, and we've been pretty excited about that. We've been excited since we started it, but this whole live idea was Shantanu's. I'm gonna blame him for that or whatever. But I want to ask you, Shantanu, why are we doing this live?
Awesome. That's a good question. So I'm talking to you, YouTube, but I'm also live on Instagram because there's so much media. I feel like we're becoming self-styled celebrities. We got cameras here, got cameras there. It's all very confusing. Little intimidating as well.
Pretty intimidating.
Yes. So the first thing I want to tell you guys, and now the session is actually starting, and viewers are starting to jump in. The first thing I want to tell you guys is we had planned to do like 2 hours worth of rehearsal before we started this live session. We got caught up with things like I fell asleep and Nandini was studying for college. And we ended up starting our preparation for the YouTube live session at 5:30 p.m. So, and then we spent the most of the next half an hour just making fun of each other. By the way, if you're watching on Instagram, join us on YouTube, APM Nation. Okay? Past has a question on Instagram. Past, join us on YouTube and ask us there because we are not going to answer on your Instagram questions. Hi, Soumya. Why aren't you at the Bangalore Slam? I'm disappointed. But also, thanks for joining us. Awesome. So, you had a question.
Yes.
And I've completely forgotten what it is. Hit me.
So my question is because APM Nation is watching, and why are we doing this live? Why are we live today?
Oh, yeah, shit. That's a great question. Why are we doing this YouTube live? So, the master plan is to do, and this is for you guys as well. The master plan is to do a weekly YouTube live on our channel, APM Nation. Where was it written? APM Nation, guys. APM Nation, okay? The plan is to do a weekly YouTube live. Parth has come in. Parth, stick around for the Q&A, please. Also, guys, I'm shutting off Instagram. Bye. This is just like killing me. End live video. Share. Awesome. Cool. Here's what's up. Hi, Parth. Hi, Soumya. Hi, Sharad. Hi, Nandini's mom.
Hi, mom.
Okay. The master plan is to do every week. You know what? I'm not even going to fuck around here. Here's the truth. Soon, we have something very exciting coming out. In the first blog post, when we planned out the 100-poem challenge and we planned out the whole APM 100-poem challenge and everything and the APM Nation, the plan was to push poets to do these 100 poems, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And at the end, release an anthology.
Correct.
You remember that? Well, we are going to release an anthology. And what we're going to do is we're going to open submissions. soon. Now, this is a spoiler, guys. We haven't announced it anywhere. Um, we haven't announced this. This is a spoiler, and this is a first reveal just for you guys on the YouTube page. Um, we're going to open submissions. We're going to put out an anthology. We're not going to tell you how this anthology is going to come out, where it's going to be available, who else is going to be there. All we're going to say is that we're trying to create something amazing. Okay. I'm not even going to pretend that we're not. I'm so excited about this. What we're trying to do is end game of the last 4 years of APM, and specifically the last 8 months.
Yeah.
And the reason we're doing this live is because we can. We can. Like, we have this 3,000 rupee mic system, and we have the very expensive laptop, and we're here. And I think documenting the process of creating this book, I think that's important. We're doing a session. We're doing this live session, and we just want to document what we're doing. We want to show you guys, and now I'm talking to you. We want to show you what it takes to create something like that. Something beautiful, something meaningful. We want to include you in our process, because the thing about the APM Nation is that, it's been a community. Y'all have made the APM Nation what it is. And we want to have this direct window. This is episode 1. We're fucking up a lot, right? But it's episode 1. We want 6 months later, we want that to be like episode, 6 into 4 weeks.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what we want. So we're talking about the APM Nation, and obviously we're on this channel. Nandini, you, I think, spend more time than me, I think, net score on the APM Nation Facebook group. You spend more time answering, commenting on poems, reading poems, judging poems, blah, blah, blah. So it's been 8 months of this. What excites you most about the APM Nation? What do you feel is most exciting?
Right. Most exciting? Okay, I'm going to start with the moment when we first started APM Nation. It's like we put out the first prompt, and we're really clueless about how many people are going to be writing, right? And by the end of the week, I think the first most exciting moment for me was receiving, I think we got around 100, more than 100.
I think it was closer to 200.
Right.
We never topped that.
Yeah. So 200, okay, more than 200 probably. The first most exciting moment for me was that, seeing that we've put out a prompt without really, knowing how many people are actually going to be writing. I mean, for all, there could be just 10 people writing, or probably 0. But when we saw those 200 people, I think we couldn't hold our excitement back. We were just too happy that, because it works both ways, right? You put out a prompt, but also the reason why APM Nation group works is because there are all these poets writing. Yeah. So I think the reply,
poems, what would be left?
Nothing. Yeah. So I think the most exciting moment for me was that, but also as months passed by, I think a lot of exciting moments came when you could see some poets being so regular. There were people.
Any shout outs you want to give right
Shruti
now?
Ambas, definitely. Rishita Shetty, Nidhi Krishna, Yamini Krishnan. There's so many. I'm forgetting the names.
Yeah, can I throw in a couple of names?
Yes.
I think Ishan Gupta has been really regular. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
We feel like Shawnee Rakshit has dropped out a little bit.
Yes.
We noticed that, but we would love to see you back. Anyone else who comes to mind immediately?
Tanay
Sane has been so regular.
Well,
I think
Sunil Bhandari. Oh my God.
I think how can we not?
Ria Roy.
How can we not mention Shalini? Shalini, I'm not. You have a long surname, and I'm not sure exactly how to say it.
Sabi Raman, is that how you pronounce it? If you're watching, please give me a thumbs up and be like, "Wow, Nandini, you got it."
Yeah, but definitely Ruchira Mandal, Mona Sija, I think Srijani. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I
Srijani?
might be saying that name wrong. But
Yeah.
so many people.
Priyamvada Shivaji.
Yeah, in and out a little bit. In and out.
Yeah.
We see you. But when you're
We
in,
also read the
you're
reasons
in.
behind that.
Yeah,
but
and
then
we
we produce
appreciate that.
something magical.
Yeah, exactly.
So
So what
so
excites
many-
you about people being regular? Why does that excite you?
Because a lot of you actually see that they're producing poems every week, and the quality many times remains as good. There are moments when it drops, but that's also because of the regularity. You can't produce like 100 great poems, but you can produce 10 really good poems.
Yeah.
You can produce 11, 12 really good poems. So I think that's exciting, the things that people come up with. And the interesting part about the ones who are regular is they also know that they can expand a little more. They can push their boundaries. So they start experimenting with the form, with the things that they write, because not always is it about the things that they've experienced. It's also about how they look at a particular situation, which they aren't very close to, but they have a certain perception about it. And which is what
so true.
which is what shows in their poems.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I've often seen Nidhi experimenting with the form, with how a poem looks on paper, which is very interesting.
That's really exciting. And I've seen a few people do that now on the group.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's like it makes the poem so much more dynamic when you're experimenting with how it's not the form itself is a part of the poem. It's part of the experience. Yeah.
So I think that's the most exciting thing. I think I've said this probably. I've given 2-3 things that are exciting, and I've said that about each. That this is the most exciting, but there are a lot of interesting moments like these, that you can't help but notice. Like
it's true.
You can't really, You
can't
really not notice them.
No, I mean, in 8 months, it would be surprising if there was just one thing that really excited you.
Yeah.
Thanks for your comments, guys. Sharad, that's okay. That's cool. Life's not over. There's more chances to write. And even if you're not sharing your poems on the group, as long as you're writing for yourself, as long as you're being true to who you are as an artist, that's cool. It's not about writing for a prompt or, writing and sharing your work. That's not everything. I highly recommend that. And I do it myself. But I wouldn't say that, you have to do it. Parth, to answer your question, I don't know if Parth's still here, but if you're still here, to answer your question, go meet Tanay, Amini, Ankita, and Adi. Like, you'll get a lot of assignments. Okay, meet people. Cool.
Yeah.
What's up?
Right. So, now that we've answered what was the most exciting thing about the APM Nation, almost answered. I'm sure there are a lot of answers that we haven't given.
Actually, I have a question for you guys in the group. Like, what do you think? Tell us in the comments. I don't know how many people are watching. Maybe 3, 4. How many ever of you are watching? The question I have is, what do you find most exciting about the APM Nation? Okay, that is the question I have for you. Also, I'm opening this because it'll get rid of that layer. Okay, so what do you find most exciting about the APM Nation? Hit us in the comments.
Yes, and while you do that, I'm going to ask you a question. So we're running this APM challenge, APM Nation. The Facebook group. And we've been running the challenge for about 7 months now. What was the point of that? What was the point of APM Nation, or the 100 poem challenge, to be more specific?
That's a pretty good question. Shit. It's so far. It seems like a lifetime ago that I was sitting right here. Okay. I was sitting right here. Nandini was in her, I think, PG at that time. You were staying in a PG?
Yeah.
Or you were home? No, it was December. It was close to your exams.
Yeah, I must have been in my PG.
Yeah. I know where you were, but we started having this conversation. It was December, and we started having this conversation, which is something we're both passionate about, which is, we want to create something meaningful, beautiful, and long lasting. You know what I'm saying? When I say long lasting, I don't mean that, the challenge itself ends the day December 31st is over.
Yeah.
But long lasting in terms of impact, in terms of how it affects people's lives. Um, and and one thing, what was the point of the 100 poem challenge? I feel like I can't answer this question without actually ranting about something I really believe in, which is that and this is a question, has there ever been a better time to be a poet? Okay? In terms of getting an audience, getting resources to get better, and just having the motivation and drive to be an actual poet. And I think very safely, I haven't lived through eternity, but I would be shocked if there were an easier time to write, publish your poetry, and find an audience for yourself. It's like, it's so crazy. Like, we couldn't be doing this 10 years ago. Okay?
Yeah.
We could not be doing this 10 years ago. We could not be communicating with you guys. Secondly, we couldn't start like 10 years ago, we could technically, but I don't believe that Facebook had the options of starting an APM Nation group. I don't think the group functionality, correct me if I'm wrong, by the way, but I don't think the Facebook group functionality existed in 2008. Okay? And 2003, Facebook didn't exist.
Yeah.
1998, Facebook didn't exist. Also, the internet was this extremely slow thing, which people, like, it was a ritual, to switch on the desktop, watch it spend like 10 minutes booting up. You have the dial-up connection, so you can't use the phone while you are using the internet. And 1988, there was no
now that you've mentioned,
don't have internet connections.
I suddenly remembered.
Right?
Yeah.
So the point is, we couldn't have had an email list because, like, those things weren't a thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The APM 100-poem challenge could not have existed 10 years ago. And the APM 100-poem challenge this doesn't answer the question, but I just feel like it matters. The fact that we appreciate how lucky we are to be in a situation where we can do this. I don't think we appreciate it enough. I just don't think we appreciate it enough. Like, we spend so much time complaining about shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is going wrong, that's going wrong, this is going wrong. But how many things are going right? I shit on Gmail and Facebook and all this every day. If my phone, is a bit slow one day, I'm complaining about it and stomping my feet. And it's frustrating. But, and like, if you you schedule a post and somehow something happens and it doesn't go up, and I'm complaining. But 10 years ago, we couldn't have done all this stuff. And the APM 100-poem challenge in many ways is just taking advantage of all the luck that we have and channeling it into this one thing, which is this sustained movement to create poetry. And I also feel like I can't answer your question without addressing this theory that I have, which is the 90-10 theory. I'm going to talk to you guys now. Sorry, Nandini. The 90-10 theory is so many poets, and this is something that breaks my heart. So many poets define themselves by the worst poems that they write instead of by the best poems that they write. Okay? This is just the truth. You're scared of creating a poem on a day when you're in a bad mood or you're tired, not for any reason other than that. If you write a bad poem, you think that you are defined by that bad poem. Okay? The 100-poem challenge was about breaking that. The core belief is very simple. If you want to become a better guitarist, play the fucking guitar. Adrit, who's there on the group and who's also, by the way, been very regular. I can't believe we missed out your name.
Avishesh, Divya Garg.
You three, and Divya and Adrit have obviously been part of our workshops. And y'all are quality, for sure. And I can't believe we forgot your names. And so Adrit knows this.
Vasanti
He's here
as well.
Oh yeah,
Here online.
big time. She's here as well. That's awesome. Um, I think it's Vasanti though. I'm
I'm
pretty sure.
sorry if I
Vasanti,
pronounced your name wrong.
tell us which of us is right. Um, you know what's funny is that if we actually do like 52 of these APM weeklies, 1 year later we're gonna look at this video and we're gonna ask ourselves how we could suck so much at YouTube. Like anyway, so the 90/10 theory is simply this. Okay, um, what's a better scenario? To write 90 absolutely shit poems during the course of a year. Okay? 90 poems which are so bad, you would never ever want to show them to anyone. Okay? You would be embarrassed to have those poems have been written by you. You know what I'm saying? Like 90 poems so sucky that if an alien invaded the earth, you would just show them that poem and they'd be like so disgusted by what you had created. It's like such bad rhymes, such terribly cliched similes that they'd leave the planet. I'm talking about 10 poems so bad that the paper spontaneously just catches fire, because it doesn't want to preserve this poetry. What if you created 90 poems these bad, okay, which are this bad, and 10 poems which are amazing. Okay? Option one. Or option two, which is what if you create like 5 poems which are amazing and 0 poems which suck? Which option is better? My point is, everyone would love a year where they did not write a single bad poem, even if that year only yielded 5 good poems, because we're comfortable with that. We're happy. We're like, I've never written a bad poem. It means I'm not a bad poet. But what's the cost? What's the cost? Because we're so afraid of sucking, we end up not creating poetry, poems that may have been amazing. We just keep them inside us because we're so afraid that they're going to suck. And the 90/10 theory is basically this: write 100 poems during the year. If 90 of them suck, but 10 of them, just 10, that's one every 10 poems that you write, are amazing, it's worth the 90 poems. And then don't define yourselves by the 90 poems. Define yourselves by the 10. Okay? That's the point of the APM 100 poem challenge. That's why we did it, to get you to write regularly. You want to be a good football player, play football every day. You want to be a great guitarist, play the guitar every day. You want to be a good dancer, dance. If you want to be a good chef, cook food in the actual kitchen. Poets love to talk about writing poetry and how hard it is to write poetry. Do less of that and write more poetry. That's the point. We got a few comments here. You want to read them out?
Sure. So this is to answer the question, what excites you most?
Yeah. Yes.
Right. So we have Adrit writing the most exciting thing. Okay, he has 2 points. First is the diligence with which we get comments on our poems by us. It's not easy to read poems and comment on them. For you all, authenticity is
I
amazing.
just want to take a second to comment on that.
Yeah.
Does it take time? Yes. Is it hard to read a lot of poems in a row and comment on them? Yes. But what we do and our approach to this, Adrit, you should know, and I don't want to speak for Nandini here, so you can disagree with me if I'm wrong. As I mentioned, this is not rehearsed. This is not like a PR line. But it's genuinely like when we see 50 comments, right? And we have to comment on them. We have to read them. We have to spend time with each of these things, But what's the other option? And the other option is that we have a free evening where we can do whatever the fuck we want, but no one's produced any poems that week, So for us, it's just, I'd rather have 100 poems and have to stay up till 4 a.m. going through them than having 20 poems and having to spend only a couple of hours. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. In fact, now that you've spoken about it, I'd also like to talk a little bit about the process of selecting the poems of the
Yeah,
week.
shit. Okay,
Yeah, it's
go for
not
it.
easy, guys. It's really not easy, especially there are these weeks where there are a lot of good poems, but there are also some weeks where there are a lot of great poems, like really top quality ones. Those
Yeah.
are probably the toughest for us.
Oh man, yeah. A couple of weeks ago, we had a
Yeah,
week like that, right?
yeah,
It was
we
like
did.
we spent I think 40 minutes debating who would be the best, right?
Yeah.
And it was like 1:30 a.m. We were done. Okay, we were done. It had almost come to a stage where we were like, just let's just flip a coin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to me about the process though. Like you're
Right.
all these poems,
Mhm.
condensing them down to three. How does that work?
Right. So the process actually starts from the day when we put up the prompt of the week.
Hmm.
That's when we start reading the poems. And we take our time with reading the poems. And there are weeks where you guys must have also noticed that we don't put out the poems of the week on Monday because we've
Yeah,
been busy over the weekend, and that's when we
that's
do a
true.
lot of work on poems of the week. But also, it starts from Monday when you guys start writing the poems. So we read the poems that start coming in throughout the week. We are reading poems, and we create these documents where
Yeah.
there are, so every week we create a document where we shortlist some of the poems that we really enjoyed reading or had, something a bit more than what we see in the other poems, or just like something more magical, something that the
Something that
poet
stands out,
has,
right?
where the poet has actually pushed their boundary a little bit more and created something that could be new, that could be just, looking at a certain thing in a new perspective, or just,
Yeah, I think that's, by the way, just take this moment. Like, I wish we could put like a card up, but that's a
yeah.
very important like message for everyone in the APM nation. Like, if
Hmm.
you're watching, create something new or look at something that's old through a new
New
lens.
lens,
Yeah,
yeah.
right? Like with a new perspective. If you do one of those things, step one is done.
Yeah.
Like you're 50% there to creating a poem that matters. Right. So
Yeah.
anyway, so you shortlist,
Yeah.
we copy paste the poems and put them on a
On a
document.
document.
What happens? Yes.
Yeah, so by I think Friday, Saturday, we're done with all the copy
So yeah,
pasting.
so sorry, I keep
Yeah,
interrupting
sure.
you, but I have a question. So and think you'll have to think a little bit,
Hmm.
but you maintain these documents, right? You create them, you
Hmm.
sift through them. You definitely spend more time than I do. Um, you don't have to tell me the exact week number, but but how many poems were there? If you had to take a guess, in the week that had the most shortlisted poems, the highest number of shortlists, because we don't count while shortlisting, right? It's not like
We
we're doing like
don't,
just the
yeah.
top 20 that we're going to put in this document. We just
Yeah.
copy paste. If we read a poem that we like, it just goes directly.
Hmm.
And then the examination begins.
Yeah.
So, what do you think was the highest number that's ever been on a document?
So I remember there was one week, I obviously don't remember which week, but I remember there were probably like 50 to 60 poems.
Oh my God.
No, on the main APM
Yeah, yeah.
Nation
Okay,
group.
okay.
Yeah,
On the APM
on the
Nation group,
prompt,
there were 50,
right?
60.
There were about 50, 60, but like half of the poems were there in the
Oh my
document.
God.
So
So that's like
I
30.
guess 30 poems must have been
Yeah,
the
that's
maximum
what's
number.
yeah. What's the average? Do you think that makes it onto that sheet?
Average is perhaps somewhere around 15,
15 to 20.
15 to 20.
Yeah.
Because we always have, I mean, the first thing is obviously reading all the poems, but the uh, second step is to then see which ones can go in the document. And sometimes we're really unsure because we like a certain poem, but we're not sure whether it will be a shout out or something. But then we still want to give it some sort of an award. We want
Yeah.
to give a shout out because there's something special about that poem. So there's always that, there's a conflict going on in our mind whether to include a certain poem or not. So there are all these moments. So we do end up putting it in the document, and then we leave it for our future selves to decide
Yeah.
whether it makes it or not. But
We give our
yeah,
future selves a lot of work to do.
yes, we do. we feel like okay, let's make this easier for ourselves, but we don't realize that later on it's going to become tough. So the second process is then shortlisting, the ones that we really like in the document, and then the process after that is then to just focus on that document that we've prepared, and shortlist the ones that could become shout outs, and
Yeah.
shortlist the ones that could be the three poems of the week.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that process, as easy as it sounds, I mean, it finishes in 2 sentences, but it's not that easy.
Not
Because
that
that
easy.
takes the maximum time, I guess, more than commenting.
Yeah.
Because commenting happens then over the weekend.
And
But
commenting is very spontaneous, right?
yeah,
It's
if
like
we like a certain line, we have to tell you guys that we like it.
it's like, I mean, it's almost like we imagine that the poet's right there.
Yeah.
Right? And they've shown us this poem. And it's like, what do you do when you read a poem? You're like, wow, any poem, like if it's by a
Yeah.
famous poet and stuff, you just respond. So I think commenting is actually the easy part.
Yeah.
Fucking choosing. Tell me about POTW rank 1. What does it take to, because Nandini often what she does is, and I don't know if she wants me to be revealing this, and I fear that I'm gonna regret asking this question later, but I mean telling you guys this, but often this happens, and Nandini sort of sends me a message on WhatsApp, on Hangouts, on Facebook, and this will be like on a Wednesday or a Thursday, and she'll copy paste a poem and she'll send it to me, and she'll be like, "This is a POTW poem," okay, and she'll be like, "For sure." So it's like, this is a POTW poem for sure, and I'll get a text in the middle of the week. I haven't even started reading the poems, that y'all have put up. But Nandini will send me like this message, and she'll be like, so, and this has happened so many times, I've lost count. Okay, it's like been 26, 27 weeks. It's happened at least 12, 13 times where she just spontaneously sent me a message. What is, and sometimes, by the way, I just have to say that poem doesn't end up getting POTW because there's a poem further down the line which is just better. Right? And it's not the fault of the poem. It's just, it's so many weeks. The poems that are rank 1, rank 2, and rank 3 are basically worth being rank 1.
Yeah.
On any different week, they could have been rank 1, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so what is a POTW poem? When you send me that message, what do you mean? I'm actually curious.
Right. So a POTW poem, when I send you a poem, I'm sending you because I've really, really enjoyed reading that poem, because it has elements which just stand out. Like, there are a lot of these poetic devices that have been used cleverly, or there's something new that a poet has done, and it's just affected me so much that I send it to you. And then there are moments when it turns out that it's not the POTW, but that doesn't mean that that poem is not great. It's just that in that week there was a better poem that came along.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the whole so if you haven't got a POTW, please don't worry about it. It's just something that we do, which is like selecting our 3 favorites for the week.
It's not the ultimate measure of your poetry. It's just
yeah, it's not to create a competitive spirit. It's just to see that the extent to which poets can go in creating a particular piece of art.
Yeah.
It's how much they can push their boundaries, and what is it that they're creating, how carefully they're selecting the words that they're using, or where they're breaking their stanzas, what new are they creating with their poetry. And I think that's what makes a POTW, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. And sometimes
you want to add anything, because you've gone through so many of these
I've also sent you some of those messages, right?
Yeah, by the way, Shantanu has sent those messages as well.
It's different things, right? What you said, like, look, some of you do the line breaks and stuff so well, and it's like, wow. And the stanza breaks, and it's just technique, the use of words, etc. It's vocabulary, it's blah blah blah. And sometimes it's just searing honesty.
Yeah.
It's like, this poem is fucking honest. You read the poem and you're like, wow, you can tell that the poet has not lied. You can tell. Sometimes you're ambivalent, and sometimes you sort of feel like the poet it's a facade, And all three situations happen, but once in a while you're like, there's no way this is not the truth. It's just so powerful. The truth for me, that we learned in both of us went to law school. We studied in ILS Law College. And
Yeah.
and we learned that in defamation, right? So defamation is when you say something like, if I were to publish something in the newspaper tomorrow against Nandini, she'd file a suit against me. She'd be like, hey, Shantanu, you are defaming me, hurting my reputation, blah, blah, blah. And what we learned is that truth is the best defense for defamation.
Yeah.
Did we learn that? I still remember that.
Yes.
And truth is useful in a few things. One, it's a great defense for defamation, guys. If anyone ever accuses you, you know this now. Thank me later. But secondly, it's also the greatest defense for poetry.
It is.
Nothing beats the truth. Like if you have the truth and nothing else, I love your poem already. But if you have the truth and you've written it well, it's like you have my heart. You know what I'm saying? It's a big
that reminds me, one person we've missed out, and I'm sure they're pretty. It's a large number of people that we've missed out, but Kunjana.
How did we miss out Kunjana? How did we miss out Uttiya Roy?
Yes.
Uttiya, you've been writing so consistently. You may never watch this video, but if you ever stumble upon this, please know that we really appreciate your poetry. What message would you have for people who've never been picked? We spend so much time right now eulogizing about the POTWs and stuff. Is someone who's never been rank 1, rank 2, rank 3, or got a shout out? What would you say to them?
I think for me, and I would like to hear from you as well, what's the message that you would like to give? But I think for me, one thing I want to say for sure is don't stop writing. Because as we said that POTWs is not what you should be looking at. What you should be looking is your personal journey in the whole process.
Yeah, should.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. You just answered the question. Right? Should. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to add to that.
Because it's your personal journey. And the one thing that you should be aiming for is how are you improving what you are trying to say through your poetry, or what your poetry is trying to create.
I could not agree more.
Yeah. And do you want to expand on that?
I just want to say she hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, so I think that's probably one message that I would love to say.
I would love to put up there would be this text that pops up. It's not going to pop up, guys, but later, in the video, or we had like a banner that said this, and maybe we'll put up like a quote poster later. But guys, it's about, you're not competing with other people. You're competing with yourself. The question you have to ask yourself is, have you got better from the previous week, or 6 months before, or 2 months before? The APM 100 poem challenge is not a competition. It's called a 100 poem challenge, not a 100 poem competition. The reason is we're not asking you to, do anything except push yourself to the peak of your potential. Push yourself to create a better poem every week.
Yeah.
That's what we want from you. And if you want that from yourself, you never lose, by the way. That's the funnest part of being on a personal journey. This is why I think APM has basically survived for this long and we haven't shut it down, because we just compete with ourselves. Like, we blame ourselves for shit that gets wrong. We try to become better ourselves. And as long as that happens, we feel like we're winning, And as a poet, especially a young poet, people don't realize how young they are. It's like a 21-year-old poet.
Guys, you're really young, okay?
A 24-year-old poet is like, I'm so old and I'm not a good poet yet. Will I ever be a good poet? And like, 24 is baby by poetry standards. Like, 40-year-old poets are considered young. You know what I'm saying? Like, a 40-year-old poet is actually young. Because the older you get, the better you get, the more experience you get. Like, I'm a better poet than now. I was 8 years ago. I think you are a better poet than you were 8 years ago. And you will be. But if you don't write and focus on your own journey, what happens is you drop off.
Yeah.
And because you stop, 8 years later, you're as good as you are when you were 24. And you're still young, by the way. You could still start at age 32, but you don't because you think I'm old. And I think this age thing has become very, like 30-year-old poets are like, I'm too old for poetry. Like,
No.
no,
Yeah.
no. A 60-year-old poet is not too old. An 80-year-old poet is probably at peak performance. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, I would assume that 70, I'd say 60 to 70 is probably peak performance for a poet.
Hmm.
Um, 24 is just way off.
Yeah.
Um, so the message. If you take back one thing from this session, take back the thing Nandini said, which is that it's a personal journey. Like, if you haven't been picked, that's cool. You have to ask yourself a different question, which is, are you better than you were 6 months ago? And if you are, you're doing something right. And 2 years later, when someone else hosts another challenge and they're picking their favorite poems, you might be there. You know what I'm saying? But if you stop, you're never going to be there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Also, if how do you become better? One is of course writing, but also read more poetry. See what are the things that how are people trying to create deviations in what they write. How are they trying to make their poems new or different from the ones that have been written in the past, and learn that there are ways that you could contribute your voice to poetry, right?
Big time.
You have your own voice, and think of how what contribution you're making, even if it's writing just one poem every week.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Like, take that back, guys. Quickly, I want to address the comments that have come in.
Yes.
Because I feel like we've ignored
We
them.
sort of. Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Didn't mean to do that.
Yeah.
Adrit mentioned, and we went on a huge tangent from his first comment, which lasted like, I think, 20 minutes. But Adrit's second point was the divergence which all poets create. It's amazing to see possibilities. It begins with, I can't write every week, and then actually do it and seeing everyone do it differently. I think that excites us too. It's just, it surprises us to see someone, and we sort of shoebox them in our heads, and then they look at a prompt and then they just come up with an entirely new perspective, and we're shocked and we're surprised, and it's so much fun. For me, Soumya writes, is to receive the mail with the poem of the week. I've read so much good work in the past few months. Same, Soumya, hashtag same. Okay. We just love reading good poems. And we thought by now, maybe the good poems would have dried up.
Yeah.
But instead, what we're seeing is more diversity in writing, more experimentation, like poets having more fun. It's cool.
Yeah.
Vasanti said, for the longest time, I thought I couldn't write on prompts because it takes longer to connect to something and create a poem. APM Nation broke that mindset for me. Vasanti, damn it, I was wrong. Nandini, so this happens quite often, by the way, I should mention. Nandini says something, I correct her, and it turns out she was right all along. Yeah, it's an inside joke at this point. And now you guys are in on it too. Sharat said 14 here. You've brought in a lot of poets who really write fine poetry. Okay. Apart from that, has been an inspiration for ones who don't fit in. Well, Sharat, thank you so much. The thing we fear most in something like the APM Nation is at some point it becomes closed. And I don't mean closed as in, you have to work hard to enter. I think you should, as a poet, have to pay your dues to get in, which is, and your dues are simple. Create poetry. Yeah. But we want that to be the only barrier to entry. You know what I'm saying? Our biggest fear is that one day people will look at APM, Entering Poetry movement as a whole, and be like, even if I work hard, I'm not going to get accepted over here. And we want to create a platform where the only barrier to entry is you have to pay us in poems. You know what I'm saying? And as long as that happens. So thank you so much for your comment. It really means a lot, idea, a lot to us. Tanaya mentions, do you think it's a bad idea if I'm writing more than one poem every week because I miss so many older? I want to come.
Tanaya, how can it be a bad idea?
Yeah. If you write one poem every day, I think that's a good idea. If you write 10 poems every day, I think that's a good idea. Also read and grow and think. I don't care. You could write 100 poems in a day. My question is, make sure, and when you write regularly, this can happen. This is why I'm warning you against this. I'm not saying don't write regularly. I'm saying write as regularly as you possibly can, but also don't get into a stage where you're writing for the sake of writing. You
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying? Don't write for the sake of writing. Write because you want to. Put adequate thought into. You could write about, your phone, a pen, paper, toenails, teeth, noses, specs, ceilings, fans. You can write about anything in the world. It doesn't have to be like, I'm writing about world hunger every week and then I'm writing about poverty and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. But the point is, whatever you write about, whether it's your phone or your glasses or your nose, put adequate thought into it
Yeah, I agree
before.
with you.
Right? Anything else that you would like to add over there?
I think, pretty much in line with the thought bit. Absorb the things that are happening around you and around what you're talking about. In the sense, if you're writing about love, also look at it. Look at how people are reacting to it. Look at how you are reacting to it. Think a little bit more.
Yeah. Give yourself
Yeah,
time.
give
Spend
yourself.
time with your poem.
Yeah, I think
It's like
that's the best way to put
so
it.
many people treat their poems as enemies. So many people treat their poems as enemies. It's like
Yeah.
something that you need to stay away from. Like you write your poem and then you just don't want to look at it anymore.
Yeah.
Or you have an idea and you're so scared that the idea is going to leave you that you just write a poem as you just put it down on paper as soon as you can. Do the
Yeah.
opposite.
Let it develop.
Let it stew. Like
Yeah.
stay awake at 1 a.m. Not too late, but stay awake at 1 a.m. and just spend time with the poem. Shut yourself up in your room and just like sit and
Yeah.
no headphones, no music, no computer, no distractions, and just spend some quality time with your poem. You know what I'm saying? Those tweets and the Instagram and everything can wait.
Yeah.
But a beautiful poem stays forever. You know what I'm saying? Like you're always just one. Look, the theory is, I said this at the beginning, right? Don't judge yourself by your worst poems, judge yourself by your best poems. And the theory is this: you're just one great poem away from being a great poet.
Yeah.
So spend time with your poems. If you have an idea, even if it seems like it'll just be an okay poem, spend time with it, nurture it, develop it before you actually even start writing. Just spend time with your poem. Treat it like a lover. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I don't mean like a casual fling. I mean an actual relationship. Develop that, get to know your poem, and then write it. It'll be like beautiful.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add?
No,
Yeah.
I think that's about it. Yeah.
Cool. So Nikita's here. She says, hi, Nikita. She says, the most exciting thing is undoubtedly the brilliant content in the group. Hashtag same. I'm going to try to make that a thing on these things. No.
Let's not.
Okay. I'm not going to try to make that a thing. This was my decision, guys. I missed so many older prompts and no, that's Tanaya. Nikita says, shout out to all such contributors. Your words are living, they are breathing. I can't resist. Hashtag same. And this is the last time, I promise, Nandini. I'm so sorry. But she's
Let's
refusing to
move
look at
on.
me. She can't even look me in the eye. Nandini, accept my apology, please. I'm sorry.
Apology accepted.
Thank you. Hashtag same. And obviously you two reviewing all the poems. Just thanks. It means the world to us that you appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? Thank you so much. Adrit says, just a question, poems put up on Sunday don't get reviewed. It depends on what time on Sunday. So if you put it up at like 10 o'clock on Sunday, 10 o'clock is a bit late. You know what I'm saying? And we miss those. But if it's like by 4 p.m., by 5 p.m., they get reviewed. So the important thing is if you do it Sunday, if you have to, it's advisable to get it out by Saturday because even though we comment on the weekends, because we can't, by the way, this is fun fact for all of you, we can't comment from our phones.
Yeah.
If I comment from my phone, it comes as Shantanu, not as Airplane Poetry Movement.
Yeah.
Same for Nandini. So we read your poems during the week, but we don't comment. And then we come back, we read them, and then we comment on the weekend.
So as we said, like we decide the shout outs and we have to stop somewhere.
We have to stop somewhere. So if it's like Sunday, 7 p.m., if you put up a poem now, for instance, it's hard for us to get to it,
Yeah.
It's hard for us to read a completely new poem. And of course we can, and some weeks we do, but it's just the odds of it getting read are, I think, lower. So
that doesn't mean you don't write the poem. Write it, go ahead, post it. Because there's so many people who are reading, and we also do read it. It's just that we
We may not
stop
come in.
the yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. We stop
And
the process.
exactly. And the only reason you're writing is not so that we review it, right?
Yeah.
Like, it can't be. It can't be. So write the poem, put it up as soon as you can. But if you miss the deadline, don't be like, oh no, not going to write a poem on this prompt, especially if it's like a fun prompt, like the elevator prompt, which Nandini came up with, which I love. And, still create the poem.
Yeah.
For sure. Sharad says, fit into the box to just do their thing. I'm more into translation. Oh, wow. Sharad, trust me, translation is as important as creation. In a country like India, where
Yes.
where there are so many different
Yeah.
languages, it sucks that this language barrier stops, especially people from vernacular languages, from getting an actual audience, like a big audience. They're already playing. The dice is already
Yeah.
loaded against them. The point is, translation is in our day and age possibly
Very
more important than
yeah.
creation, because what you're doing is you're making poetry more accessible. And some of the most important poetry in our country is this thing. Look, if you're into poetry translation and if you're good at it, message us. I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
We'll help you. Like, we'll help you somehow. I don't know how. We'll figure that
Yeah. We
out.
don't know yet
But
how, but
like,
we
if
want to
all we're
help
doing
you.
is sharing your translations on the page and helping
Yeah.
the people in the APM nation read more great poetry, we'd be we'd be grateful to you for letting us do that.
Yeah.
Because language is such a huge barrier in our country, just for there being a unified
Huh.
poetry movement.
Absolutely.
So if you're into translation and there's any way you think we can help you, ask. And if we can't help you at all, we'll be honest and we'll tell you. But if we can, we will. Okay? Because what you're doing is important. It's genuinely important.
Yeah.
Cool. So I think it's almost been an hour. Yeah. Nandini, closing words.
Yeah. So I think my mom has another comment, which is probably going to be my closing words as well, because she's always taught me to be the best version of myself, and that's what I want to leave you guys with. Always remember that whatever you're doing, just be the best versions of yourself.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
look at how you can improve how you're thinking. In fact, yeah, that's something that's very important. Is also growing as a poet does not mean growing just in terms of writing. Growing in terms of thought also is
Yeah.
very
And as a
important
human being.
as a human being.
Yeah.
That's how you're reacting to people, whether you being able to control yourself, whether you are in control of yourself, and that sort of also reflects in what you write. you know
Big time.
yeah.
Big time.
What
If
about
you
you?
have any pressing questions, ask on the live chat. We'll stick around for a couple of minutes for sure. If you have any pressing questions about ABM Nation, about poetry, about anything, ask. You know, Avishesh, thank you for your comment.
Yeah.
You are amazing too. Okay?
Absolutely.
You're amazing. We love your poetry. Sharad, it's not embarrassing. It's true. Message us. Get in touch with us. Yes, do it. Okay? Go for it. I think Nandini summed it up pretty well. The 100 poem challenge is a personal journey. It's not about competing with other people. It's about competing with yourself. And that is, as Nandini and Nandini's mom have said, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Nandini's mom. Please join us next week as well. But what she said is just, you have to be better than your previous self. And as long as you do that every day in like small, small ways, like the rewards are, there's no bigger reward that's possible. Because if you're competing with other people, there'll always be a new person to compete with. It's
Exactly.
never ending. There are 7 billion, 15 million people on this planet. You think none of them are better than you? Seriously, the odds of you being rank 1 out of 7.5 billion people. How low are those odds? Rank 1 out of 7 billion, guys. It's
Yeah.
the maths It just doesn't add up. So instead, why not, instead of fighting that losing battle, why not fight a battle that you can actually win, which is push yourself to be the best person and poet that you can be. Sounds super preachy over there. But I think we believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Guys?
Any questions that you'd like to ask?
Yeah.
We're here for some more time.
Like 30 seconds, I think.
Yeah, we'll wait for 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
And
Fingers on the keyboard, guys. But genuinely thank you for everyone who commented. Thank you, Sharat. Thank you, Abhishesh. Thank you, Nandini's mom. Thank you, Adrit. Thank you, Nikita. Thank you, Tanaya. Vasanti. Soumya.
And yeah, Adrit.
Yeah. Past.
Parth.
Even though you were there for like 5 minutes. Just listen. Thank you, everyone
everybody
who joined us.
Yeah.
I think we'll be back next week. You think we'll be back next week?
I think we will be.
Even I think we're going to be back next week. Awesome. If you're watching this later, message us on the group. Yeah. You can message us with your questions and doubts that you have and your thoughts on this episode. Something exciting is coming. I'm going to talk you through the process. Something that we genuinely believe in. Okay, I'm going to say bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye, guys.
See you next Sunday.
Next Sunday.
See you next Sunday. Bye.